I was robbed of $10 million by my own mother and sister in a single night. And the moment I saw the note they left, "Thanks for funding our new freedom. Don't bother looking for us. It's useless." I seriously considered slamming my head against the fireproof safe I'd paid a fortune to have installed for Mom. The emotion that washed over me was a cocktail of shock, anger, and, if I'm honest, almost a twisted sense of amusement. Who else but me would end up as the family cautionary tale on every Facebook aunt's newsfeed? My name's Mackenzie. I'm 31. I recently sold my tech startup for enough money to buy 3 houses and a small island. Officially, I'm between projects. In reality, I spend my mornings scrolling through memes and my afternoons trying to figure out how to manage a sudden windfall that hit me like a meteor from the universe. The night before everything changed, I carried 3 ridiculously heavy duffel bags of cash into my mom's kitchen in our typical Portland suburb. The kitchen smelled like her signature barbecue, burnt at the edges because she can't focus on grilling and doom-scrolling TikTok at the same time. Rebecca, my sister, was draped across the couch, giggling at some reality TV disaster, one foot hanging off the armrest, thumbs tapping out messages to God knows who. "You're nuts bringing $10 million in cash home," she snorted. Mom, Diane, did her trademark worried but thrilled headshake, but I caught the way her eyes glittered, brighter than the string lights she insists on leaving up all year. "Better here than stuck in a bank where hackers can just take it," I shot back, winking. My paranoia was supposed to be funny. In hindsight, maybe it was the world's darkest joke. It was my first night as one of those suddenly rich stories you hear about but never believe. The house, which I'd bought for Mom after my first big bonus, was usually filled with the chaos of normal family life. Burnt toast, overwatered plants, the constant rattle of Mom's ancient washing machine. But tonight it felt different. Tense. Like a sitcom laugh track was missing, replaced by a suspenseful soundtrack. Maybe it was the way Mom kept glancing at the duffel bags. Maybe it was Rebecca obsessively scrolling through her phone and dropping not-so-subtle hints about how amazing the new Tesla looked in red. Everyone was buzzing with excitement. Or maybe it was greed. Shock detail: as I stashed the bags in my mom's wall safe, hidden behind a shelf of porcelain frogs, naturally, I noticed the lock looked a little scuffed up. "You been messing with this, Mom?" I joked, testing the code. She just shrugged. "I forgot the combination last week, had to reset it." My instincts nudged me. Something felt off, but I chalked it up to nerves. I mean, who would ever think their own mother would swipe $10 million? I was more worried about the FBI than my own family. First twist of the night, Mom went to bed early. That might not sound like a big deal, but this is a woman who treats Hallmark Channel movies like religion and never misses her nightly glass of boxed wine. "Get some sleep, honey. Tomorrow's a big day with the lawyer," she said, patting my hand. I stood in the kitchen for a minute, just listening to her lock her door, a sharp click I wasn't used to hearing. Normally, she'd be binge-watching until midnight, shoes off, feet up, sighing about whatever disaster befell the romantic lead. I brushed it off. If Mom needed rest, who was I to stop her? Maybe she finally realized getting older means you can't run on coffee and resentment forever. Second twist, Rebecca slipped outside after dinner, whispering furiously into her phone in the backyard. She tried to be sneaky, glancing over her shoulder every 5 seconds, but subtlety has never been her strong suit. I watched through the window as she shoved something into her purse. "Big plans tonight?" I called. "None of your business," she snapped, slamming the door. Mom popped in from the hallway, waving a ladle. Let her be, she's grown. Sure, grown and acting like a nervous raccoon. If there were ever red flags, they were all there, waving like a 4th of July parade. I ignored them, because that's what you do when you love people. Or maybe that's what you do when you want to believe your family would never see you as an ATM with a heartbeat. That night, I collapsed in my old bedroom, the same creaky twin bed from high school, lumpy mattress and all, which made my back ache like I was 80. The glow-on-the-dark star stickers were still on the ceiling. I fell asleep listening to the buzz of Mom's ancient fridge and the faint smell of her vanilla candles. All I could think about was tomorrow, signing the final paperwork on my dream home, maybe even upgrading my used Prius for something flashier. I had no clue this was going to be my last night as anyone's favorite daughter. Sleep came in snatches, interrupted by the memory of Mom's anxious eyes and the echo of that safe's scratchy lock. At one point, I thought I heard voices in the hallway, soft, urgent whispers, but I chalked it up to old plumbing or my imagination running wild. Classic me, the world's least suspicious tech CEO, now sleeping over at Mom's because she can't let go of childhood nostalgia. Maybe if I'd paid more attention, I'd have noticed the warning signs. Or maybe when you grow up poor, trust is a luxury you force yourself to afford. I woke to the smell of nothing. No coffee, no bacon, just the dusty air of my childhood room. It was too quiet. The clock read 7:30. Mom was always up by now, banging pans and humming some off-key 80s hit. I padded down the hall in my pajamas, calling out. Silence. Mom's room? Bed made, untouched. Rebecca's room? Empty. Suitcase gone. My heart pounded as I raced to the office, yanked the bookcase aside. The safe door gaped open. Empty. No bags, no money, not even a scrap of good luck confetti. And then the kicker, a neatly folded note on the coffee maker. Thanks for your money, now we can live our dream life. Don't try to find us, Mom and Rebecca. The room spun. My knees buckled. I sat on the kitchen floor, crutching that note, laughter bubbling up, a harsh, broken sound I barely recognized. Was this karma? Was it some twisted test? Or maybe just the world's worst punchline? You never imagine your own mother and sister will outsmart you, especially when you spent years thinking you were the clever one. Turns out, the joke was on me. The past comes back with the force of a slap in the face when you're kneeling on your mom's kitchen floor at 7:45 a.m., clutching a note that basically tells you your whole childhood was a setup for the world's most expensive prank. For a long moment, I couldn't decide if I was supposed to call the police or just crawl back into bed and hope I'd wake up in an alternate timeline where I wasn't a walking cautionary tale. It's funny, now that the cash was gone, the first thing that hit me wasn't anger or panic. It was humiliation. Who loses $10 million in their own mother's house? Who ends up the punchline to their own get-rich-quick story? I was Mackenzie Walker, the girl from the shabbiest apartment complex in Portland, the girl who skipped every field trip because we couldn't afford the bus fare. Growing up, our wallpaper was always peeling, the heater always broken, and the only thing reliable was that rent was always late. Shock detail. When I was 10, Mom once wrapped an empty shoebox for Christmas telling me, "Imagination is the best gift." Looking back, I should have seen the writing on the wall. Mom's motto has always been, "Fake it till you make it," and she took that a little too literally. I remember sitting at the battered kitchen table, poring over scholarship brochures instead of magazines, while Rebecca, 5 years younger, allergic to anything resembling responsibility, watched cartoons and colored on the walls. If I wanted anything, I had to work for it. My first job was bagging groceries at 12, sneaking homework in between shifts, praying no one from school saw me in my hairnet. Rebecca's first job was spending my tips at the corner store. She was the kind of kid who thought chores were medieval torture and study was a 4-letter word. As I got older, I understood that escaping our cycle of brokenness meant outworking everyone else. My guidance counselor at Lincoln High, Mrs. Patterson, always in cardigans and clunky jewelry, told me, "Mackenzie, you work like someone's chasing you." She wasn't wrong. I treated every test like it was life or death. College was my golden ticket out, and nothing was going to stop me. Ramen noodles? Bring it on. Free pizza at campus events? I could live on that in adrenaline. Rebecca, meanwhile, bounced from boyfriend to boyfriend, dropped out of community college after one semester, and cycled through minimum wage jobs like most people cycle through socks. Every few months there was some new emergency, car repairs, overdue rent, mystery health scares, and Mom, ever the fixer, ever the enabler, always told me, "Not everyone can be as focused as you, honey." Translation, get ready to bail your sister out again. I lost count of how many times I sent money. Just this once? Venmo should have given me frequent flyer miles. Twist 1. Despite everything, I really believed family meant sticking together. I was the one who paid off Mom's medical bills, bought her the house with the backyard she always wanted, even set up an allowance so she could finally quit the greasy diner. When I finally landed that MIT scholarship, I called home crying happy tears. Mom just said, "Well, I guess all those years of sacrifice were worth it, or at least one of my girls made something of herself." I laughed it off, not realizing she wasn't joking. Twist 2. The closer I got to success, the more I noticed Mom's pride had a sharp edge to it. She'd show off my latest interview to her friends, then turn right around and remind me how much she'd given up for you girls. And Rebecca, she turned my every suggestion, career counseling, budgeting, even therapy, into proof I thought I was better than everyone else. Thanksgiving last year, Rebecca stormed out because I suggested maybe investing in some online classes instead of manifesting a job from the couch. Mom took her side, like always. Shock detail. Rebecca once told me flat out, "You'll never understand what it's like to be the failure of the family." At the time, I brushed it off as a drama. Now those words ring in my ears. I guess when you grow up constantly looking for escape routes, it becomes second nature to run the minute someone hands you a bag of money. But I'd never imagined that escape route would involve torching your relationship with your only sibling. My phone buzzed, dragging me out of memory lane and straight back to reality. I'd called Mom's number 16 times already, straight to voicemail. Rebecca's phone rang once, then cut off. I texted Jason, my fiancé, my voice of reason, my backup plan for when everything goes to hell. The minute he heard what happened, he broke every speed limit between his apartment and Mom's place, bursting in still wearing his MIT alumni t-shirt and wild bedhead. The look on his face when I told him, well, it was the first time I'd ever seen him speechless. He hugged me while I ugly cried into his shoulder, then started dialing the police. 3 main characters weaving through my thoughts that morning. Mom, master of denial and vintage casserole, Rebecca, drama queen in search of a kingdom, and Jason, patient engineer who probably wished he'd fallen for a girl with normal family issues. By 9:30, I was giving a statement to 2 police officers, one who kept glancing at the leftover barbecue, the other who looked barely old enough to drive. I could almost hear them thinking, "You left how much cash in a safe? At your mother's house?" The humiliation was complete. No one warns you that when you finally have everything you ever wanted, the only thing left to lose is the people you trusted most. And sometimes they're the first to go.
If there's one thing nobody tells you about sudden wealth, it's that the real shock isn't the money. It's how the people around you start to look at you like you're a walking ATM that occasionally answers to your name. I always thought Mom and Rebecca were immune to that, or at least immune to it when it came to me. Turns out, money is the world's best magnifying glass. It doesn't change people, it just zooms in on every flaw. The police took my statement and left with polite nods and a sympathetic, "We'll do what we can." Translation, "Don't hold your breath, lady." Jason made me sit on the couch and drink water while I called my lawyer, Richard Bennett. He answered on the 3rd ring, still chewing something. "You put how much in cash in your mother's safe?" he choked. "We need to talk immediately." Twist 1. By noon, Detective Sarah Martinez arrived, sharp-eyed, salt and pepper ponytail, radiating the energy of a high school vice principal who's seen it all. She listened to my story, pausing only to scribble notes, and occasionally glance at me with this look that said, "You poor, sweet, very rich idiot." When I showed her the bank receipts and liability waivers, she actually whistled. "That's a lot of trust in family, Ms. Walker." I wanted to defend myself. I wanted to say that Mom had always told me family comes first, that I was only doing what a good daughter does. But the words stuck in my throat. Instead, I found myself remembering all the little things. Mom's half-jokes about payback for all those years, Rebecca's sudden interest in my house search, the way they hovered around the safe like kids eyeing a cookie jar. Was I ever really that blind, or just desperate to be loved? Shock detail? The detective asked if I had noticed any recent strange behavior. Calls, visitors, odd questions. I remembered Mom's phone buzzing constantly and Rebecca's secretive smiles. I also remembered the garden club story and the way they both seemed to get extra giddy when the duffel bags appeared. Martinez nodded, scribbling faster. Twist 2. That night, while Jason tried to order food I'd never touch, I scrolled through my memories looking for clues I'd missed. Rebecca, always broke, always borrowing. Mom, oddly passive-aggressive about every check I sent her. Well, I guess all those years working the diner paid off. At least one of us made it. At the time, those words just sounded tired. Now, they felt like warning shots. I remembered Thanksgiving, when Rebecca spent most of the evening whispering on the phone outside, then returned with a bright new plan for her boutique. Mom rushed to cover, "She's finally meeting someone special," but her hands shook as she ladled out gravy. Shock detail? I remembered walking past Mom's bedroom one night and hearing her practicing the safe code out loud, over and over like a tongue twister. It had seemed harmless. Now I knew it was rehearsal. By the next morning, the investigation had kicked off in earnest. Detective Martinez warned me that family money cases were rarely simple. Because you brought the money willingly, they could argue it was a gift, or at least that you had no problem giving it to them. I wanted to scream. Instead, I texted Jason for the 100th time that morning just to say, "How did I not see this coming?" He replied with a meme of a cartoon dog in a burning house saying, "This is fine." It almost made me laugh. That afternoon, Richard called back. "Technically, you're the victim of theft, but this will get messy, especially if they've left the country." He explained that freezing the money, assuming they hadn't blown it all on first-class flights and shopping sprees, would be a legal nightmare. The bank's cameras had caught the withdrawal, the security company had documentation, but the rest? It was a family drama gone international. 3 faces kept popping up in my mind. Detective Martinez, patient but with zero illusions. Richard, the lawyer who now sounded more like my therapist. And Jason, gamely trying to play both bodyguard and emotional support animal while refusing to let me order another pizza. Shock detail? That 4 p.m., my phone buzzed. A photo from an anonymous number. There was Mom and Rebecca grinning like they'd just won the lottery, boarding what looked like a private jet. A second message followed. "Always wanted to fly private. Thanks for making it happen." The casual cruelty in that text felt like someone had punched me in the chest. If you want to know what betrayal smells like, it's not sulfur or smoke. It's the faded scent of vanilla candles in an empty house and the metallic tang of your own fear as you realize the people you love have rewritten the definition of family to suit themselves. And the worst part? I was still not ready to give up on them. Not yet. Call it stupidity, call it optimism, or maybe it's just that old childhood habit, believing if you try hard enough, you can always fix things. But that was about to be tested in ways I'd never imagined. Morning sunlight cut through the living room, slicing across the abandoned coffee cups and stacks of moving paperwork like an interrogation lamp. I found myself wandering the house, retracing my steps from the night before, as if maybe the money would reappear if I just looked hard enough under the cushions or behind a closet door. All I found were crumbs, dust bunnies, and the slow realization that everything had really, truly changed. My phone pinged with a voicemail from Rebecca. Her voice, mockingly sweet, played out in the silence. "Hey sis, bet you're freaking out right now. Well, get over it. You've had everything handed to you while Mom sacrificed everything. All those years watching you succeed while I struggled. This money, it's our turn. You'll make another $10 million with your big brain. This is our only chance. Don't bother looking for us. By the time you hear this, we'll be in a country with no extradition treaty. Love you." The words burned worse than the coffee I choked down trying to process them. Shock detail. Rebecca's message ended with a giggle. It was the same sound she used to make when she'd get away with stealing the last slice of pizza as a kid, except this time, she'd run off with my future. Twist 1. Detective Martinez showed up again with more questions. This time, she had a list. Phone records, security footage, even a printout of Mom's Google searches. Countries with no extradition, how to convert cash to gold, luxury hotels in Monaco. Martinez looked at me with real sympathy for the first time. "Your mother's been planning this a while," she said gently. "There are contacts in her phone linked to some, let's say, questionable businesses. They likely had help." I kept asking myself, did I really never see this coming? Or did I just ignore it because it was easier to believe in family than in facts? Twist 2. Jason, Every the engineer, decided to dig deeper into Mom's finances. He hacked into her old laptop, with my permission, don't arrest us, Martinez, and found a file named Plan B. Inside were lists, annotated articles about my company's acquisition, and a spreadsheet called Mackenzie Weaknesses. The top item, Trusts family completely. I threw the laptop across the room. Shock detail. We also found scanned receipts for casino debts, huge ones, tens of thousands of dollars. Mom had secretly remortgaged her house to pay for them, then covered it up with fake garden club events. It all made sense. The odd phone calls, the sudden obsession with safes and security, even the new friends she'd made at book club. In the span of hours, my whole narrative of my family unraveled. The struggling, sacrificial single mom, the unlucky little sister, suddenly replaced by a pair of master planners with a taste for high-stakes drama and an even higher tolerance for betrayal. I looked around at my empty kitchen, trying to remember the last time I'd felt at home anywhere. Jason put his arms around me, but I could feel the distance between us, a chasm widened by secrets and silence. "You know this isn't your fault, right?" he whispered. I nodded, but I didn't believe it. Not really. Detective Martinez laid out the next steps. File emergency motions, contact authorities in likely destination countries, and try to freeze any accounts the money might touch. It could take weeks, maybe months. And if they're using fake identities, it gets even trickier. Shock detail. Martinez found encrypted emails between Mom and someone listed only as Swan. They discussed everything from private flights to fake passports. Mom even asked, how do we avoid airport cameras? For a woman who once got lost in a Walmart parking lot, she'd suddenly turn into Jason Bourne. I started to realize I'd lost more than money. I'd lost the story I'd been telling myself for years. I wasn't the savior daughter. I wasn't even a daughter at all. I was a mark. The day crawled on in a blur of calls from lawyers, bankers, and well-meaning friends who all wanted to know how we are holding up. How do you answer that? Great, I only got conned by my own family, thanks for asking. Let's meet for brunch. Late that night, after Jason had fallen asleep on the couch and Detective Martinez had gone home, I wandered back into my childhood bedroom. My old trophies still lined the shelf, gathering dust, silent witnesses to a lifetime of striving. I wondered if any of it had ever mattered, or if, in the end, I was just running faster on a treadmill nobody else cared about. That's when my phone buzzed again, an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. A distorted voice, heavily modulated. If you want your money back, stop involving the police. The call cut off before I could reply. Shock detail. That number was traced to a disposable SIM card, purchased an hour earlier, in a small town outside Monaco. Whoever was helping Mom and Rebecca, they were professionals. I wasn't just chasing two fugitives. I was up against something much bigger. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to the house creak and settle around me, and wondered if trust was just another word for waiting to be fooled. In that moment, it felt like I was the last one left, playing by the rules. I barely slept that night. Lying in my childhood bed, the ceiling above me a map of shadows and regrets. My mind raced through memories, scrutinizing every conversation, every smile. Every time I'd handed Rebecca or Mom a $20 or $1,000 without hesitation. Was it always like this, or had they changed somewhere along the line? Or worse, had I just never wanted to see it? By sunrise, I felt like a washed-up detective in my own life story, replaying old evidence and getting nowhere. The house felt hostile now, every familiar corner echoing with suspicion. I wandered through the kitchen, running my hands along the countertop, half expecting to find another mocking note or perhaps a clue. Anything. But there was nothing left except the lingering smell of Mom's burnt barbecue and a single mug with a lipstick print, as if she'd meant to leave a mark one last time. By noon, the action ramped up. Detective Martinez came knocking, this time with a folder full of photos and bank statements. She laid them out on the table like playing cards. Images of Mom and Rebecca at the airport, security footage of them boarding the private jet, receipts for luxury hotels in Monaco and Singapore. She didn't say, "I told you so," but she didn't have to. Twist one. Martinez had found evidence that Mom and Rebecca weren't just improvising. They'd been working with someone. There were email threads with a Mr. Swan who seemed to specialize in vanishing acts. Your mother's been planning this for at least 6 months, the detective explained. And based on these emails, she wasn't just trying to disappear, she was trying to make sure you never found them. We think Mr. Swan set them up with new identities, fake passports, the whole deal. Shock detail. In one email, Mom joked about taking the scenic route through tax havens, listing destinations like the Cayman Islands, Dubai, and even a stopover in Macau. She signed off with, "Tell Becky to pack light. We're not coming back." I tried to hold it together, but the room started spinning again. Jason poured me a glass of water and squeezed my hand, but even he looked rattled. "What kind of person plans this against their own kid?" he whispered. Twist 2. Just as Martinez was about to leave, my lawyer, Richard, called. His voice was tense. "We have a hit. There's been a flagged attempt to open a bank account in Zurich with a suspicious amount of cash. The Swiss authorities are investigating, but they need a formal statement from you immediately." Within the hour, I was signing documents, uploading proof of ownership for the withdrawn funds, and learning a crash course in international asset tracing. Shock detail. We found out Mom had already tried to buy a luxury condo in Monaco using stacks of cash. The realtor, suspicious, refused and reported the transaction. Apparently, $500 bills are her red flag even in Europe. The next days blurred into each other. Lawyers, detectives, endless phone calls with bankers who all seemed very concerned, but mostly interested in covering their own behinds. Every so often, a new photo or location pinged across my phone, showing Mom and Rebecca living it up in some 5-star hotel, shopping at boutiques, lounging on yachts. Each image felt like a slap. At night, I scrolled through their Instagram burner accounts, picking out clues. Rebecca's favorite ring, Mom's left-handed teacup grip, desperate to prove to myself that these were still my family and not some strangers wearing their faces. One post showed Rebecca at a casino in Singapore, tossing poker chips in the air, captioned, "Lady Luck finally loves me." I wanted to laugh, but all I could do was cry. Detective Martinez became a constant presence. Her calm focus kept me from spinning off the planet entirely. She explained how Mom and Rebecca had paid cash everywhere, leaving as few traces as possible. But even the best criminals slip up. Luxury hotels want passports, banks want forms, and not every bouncer at a Monaco nightclub can be bribed. Jason, for his part, tried to keep me sane with bad puns and takeout dinners. "Want to binge a crime documentary and scream at the TV?" He'd ask as if we weren't already living in one. Sometimes it worked. Sometimes I just stared into space, running over every mistake I'd made, trusting too much, giving too freely, thinking love would make people honest. By the end of the week, the case had become international. My phone was full of police reports, legal advice, and the occasional meme from Jason meant to make me smile. Sometimes it even worked. But the biggest twist was yet to come, and it was something even Netflix couldn't have scripted. Because just when I was certain I'd lost everything, life decided to turn the tables in a way that was as unbelievable as it was darkly funny. By the end of that hellish week, I was running on caffeine and stubbornness. My sleep schedule was shot, my nerves were fried, and even Jason's best jokes barely registered. If you've never tried to file an international asset claim, I wouldn't recommend it. Not unless you enjoy paperwork, legalese, and the constant sense that your whole life could fit on a single bank statement. I sat in my living room, surrounded by folders and coffee mugs, scrolling through security updates and private investigator reports. Jason tried to keep me grounded, but the cracks were showing in both of us. He started sleeping on the couch, so you can rest. But we both knew it was so he could avoid my 3 a.m. pacing and late-night mutterings about tax havens and Interpol. Twist 1. Then the universe decided to up the ante. One morning, Detective Martinez called, her voice graver than usual. "We've traced your mother and sister to Monaco," she said. "They're spending money like it's monopoly cash. We've also discovered evidence they may be working with professional smugglers. This isn't just a family theft anymore, Miss Walker. It's organized crime." My stomach dropped. Organized crime? My mother could barely organize a Tupperware drawer. And Rebecca? She couldn't plan her way out of a Target parking lot. But apparently, money really does change everything. In a surveillance photo, Mom was wearing a wig, sunglasses, and carrying a Hermes handbag. The caption on the investigator's report read, "Suspect appears to be enjoying herself." It was like seeing a parody version of the woman who once clipped coupons and argued with cashiers over $2 discounts. Twist 2. That afternoon, as I was scrolling through Rebecca's burner Instagram, yes, she'd made it public because she's still Rebecca, I noticed something odd in the background of a Monaco Club photo, a man I'd seen before. I texted the image to Detective Martinez. Within hours, she confirmed he was a known identity broker wanted in 3 countries for passport forgery. "Your family didn't just stumble into this," Martinez said. "They've been coached, and someone's making money off the whole operation." Shock detail. The investigators also found a note in Mom's abandoned email. "Meet at the marina 6:22. Cash only." It was signed with a single emoji, a swan. Suddenly, Mr. Swan wasn't just a weird nickname, he was real, and he was in the thick of it. The revelation sent a new kind of chill through me. I wasn't just chasing down 2 impulsive relatives. I was up against professionals who saw my family as a payday. It stung, but it also lit a new fire in my gut. If this was the game they wanted to play, fine. I'd stop playing the victim and start thinking like the engineer I am. Jason saw the shift. He asked, "What are you plotting? Revenge or just survival?" "A little of both," I answered. "I can't fix the past, but I can make damn sure they don't get away with this." We ramped up everything. Private investigators, legal filings, social media monitoring. Richard, my lawyer, was now on speed dial and took to answering my calls with, "What now?" instead of "hello." Martinez coordinated with Interpol. I stopped crying and started planning. Shock detail. One night, a new email landed in my inbox from Mr. Swan himself. No greeting, no threats, just a single sentence. "It's not too late to walk away." Attached was a photo of my mother and Rebecca on a yacht, champagne in hand, sunset in the background, grinning like villains in a soap opera. I stared at that photo for a long time, equal parts heartbroken and furious. My family wasn't coming back. Not the family I'd loved anyway. But the real shock, the twist no one saw coming, was about to turn the entire case inside out. All it took was a late-night knock on my door, and a truth so absurd it almost made me laugh out loud. It was close to 2 a.m. when the knock rattled my apartment door, a low, urgent sound that snapped me out of my trance like scrolling through emails and dead-end leads. My first thought, Mom and Rebecca were back, ready to apologize or beg, maybe with some wild excuse about finding themselves. My second thought, paranoia. Jason was asleep in the spare room and I considered waking him, but adrenaline took over. I peered through the peephole. It was Trevor Sullivan, one of the security guards who'd transported the money with me to Mom's house. His uniform looked rumpled, his eyes haunted. "Sorry for the late hour, Miss Walker," he whispered when I cracked open the door. But I couldn't let this wait. "Can I come in?" Shock detail. The first thing Trevor said was, "The money your mom and sister took? It wasn't real." If my life had been a movie, this would have been the scene where the audience gasped. My jaw literally dropped. "Excuse me?" I managed, gripping the counter for balance. Trevor looked grave, then pulled out a folded piece of paper, a protocol form, my signature scrawled at the bottom. "You asked us 3 days before the withdrawal to swap the real cash for high-quality counterfeits as a contingency plan. The genuine $10 million is still in our vault." Twist 1. Suddenly, memories flickered. My nerves at the bank, Trevor pulling me aside to double-check paperwork, me signing form after form without reading fine print. I didn't realize I'd signed off on that. I barely remember half that day. Trevor nodded. "Most clients don't, but you asked for it. Kyle's got the real funds, untouched." Shock detail. He explained their tracking devices, tiny chips woven into the counterfeit bills, had shown the bags leaving Mom's house at 4:12 a.m. and going to the private airfield. When they later scanned the security strips, they found the chemical signature had changed. The real money had been swapped for fakes at the security company before it ever reached Mom's safe. Twist 2. My laughter was wild and sharp, bordering on hysteria. For weeks I'd mourned money and never actually lost. Mom and Rebecca, their big escape, their shopping sprees, their smug little notes, all of it powered by paper worth less than Monopoly money. It was cosmic irony at its finest. I almost felt sorry for them. Almost. But as Trevor explained, the tracking devices are still active. We know exactly where the counterfeit cash is, and if you want to press charges, this gives us a huge advantage. We can work with international authorities. Suddenly, for the first time since the nightmare began, I felt in control again. "Show me the real money," I said, voice steely. Within an hour, Trevor and I were standing in the chilled vault at Kyle's security company, my 3 duffel bags waiting like faithful dogs. I unzipped one and saw the stacks of real $500 bills, exactly as I remembered. The relief nearly buckled my knees. Shock detail. On a computer screen, Trevor showed me the blinking dot representing the money in Monaco, then France. "They're on a spree," he said with a smile, "but none of it is real." I stared at the cash, my pulse steadying, a wild plan forming in my mind. "Get the team together," I told Trevor, "and call Detective Martinez. If my family wants to play international fugitives, let's give them a finale they'll never forget." It was a turning point. The victim had left the building. Now, it was time for a reckoning. The next 72 hours spun into a blur of strategy, surveillance, and the kind of cold, focused energy I hadn't felt since my startup days. Only this time, the stakes were far more personal. I assembled my own Avengers: Trevor for security, Detective Martinez for law, Richard Bennett for legal maneuvers, and Haley Winters, my old COO, the calm in any storm, for logistics and moral support. We huddled around a cluttered conference table at Kyle's security firm, laptops open, coffee flowing, nerves stretched tight as piano wire. Twist 1. Detective Martinez laid out a plan with Italian authorities. Mom and Rebecca had been traced to Milan, splurging at 5-star hotels and luxury boutiques, still thinking they were burning through my fortune. "They're spending like they've got 10 lifetimes to live," Haley said, scrolling through their burner Instagram. "At this rate, they'll run out of Monopoly money before they even realize." Shock detail. Through surveillance, we found out Rebecca had tried to deposit $100,000 of fake $500 bills at a Milan bank. The teller's pen test failed, but Rebecca just giggled and told her, "American money is always weird." The bank called the police. Our trap was already half set without us. Twist 2. Using the trackers in the fake cash and their social media breadcrumbs, we mapped out Mom and Rebecca's every move. High-end restaurants, spa appointments, even a reservation at a restaurant so exclusive you needed 3 connections and a blood pact to get in. They were predictable, and that was their downfall. We coordinated with Italian financial crime investigators. Martinez would confront them at dinner, public enough for drama, private enough for a quiet arrest. I'd walk in, look my betrayers in the eye, and watch the whole charade crumble. That night, hair pulled back, black dress pressed, I walked into the restaurant with Haley and Trevor waiting nearby, Martinez just outside with authorities. Mom and Rebecca were there. Mom resplendent in a gown she'd never have bought back in Portland. Rebecca dripping in stolen Chanel and false confidence, raising a glass to their new life. I slid into their booth, my heart racing, but my face calm. "Room for one more?" I asked. The shock on their faces was pure, undiluted panic. For a moment, they looked like little kids again, caught with hands in the cookie jar, not $10 million in fake cash. Shock detail. I pulled out a stack of bills from Rebecca's handbag, holding it to the light. "You know what's special about $500 bills? They're perfect for counterfeiting. The money you stole, it's worthless. The real cash never left the vault." Rebecca's hand trembled. Mom's face fell. They'd thrown away their entire lives for a fortune that wasn't even real. Within seconds, Italian authorities stepped in. There was no struggle, only tears, denials, and the heavy silence of years of love gone wrong. Rebecca sobbed that she thought she was owed something, that this was her turn. Mom wouldn't look at me. 3 hours later, I was giving a final statement at Milan's Financial Crimes Division, my mother and sister facing years in prison. Richard asked if I wanted to press for the harshest sentences. I just shook my head. They've lost enough. The next days passed in a quiet I'd almost forgotten was possible. My money was safe, my future was my own again. As I boarded the plane home, I felt lighter than I had in months. Not triumphant, just free. I wish I could say I never think about it anymore, but that would be another lie, one I've promised never to tell myself again. The house is quiet now, filled with light and gentle, familiar chaos, the clatter of my keyboard, the scent of real coffee, the low hum of Jason's voice in the other room, telling some dumb joke just to see me smile. We're still healing, both of us, but each day gets easier. I keep the note Mom left, the one that broke me, tucked in a drawer, not as a reminder of betrayal, but of how far I've come since then. Sometimes I reread it and shake my head. Sometimes I even laugh. In the end, that's the real twist. Forgiveness isn't about letting them off the hook. It's about reclaiming my peace. If you're listening to this and you've been betrayed by family, by friends, by life, know this: the story isn't over. Betrayal is only the middle, never the end. You get to choose what comes next. As dusk settles outside and the last rays of sun paint the walls gold, I let the final image blur in my mind. Mom's proud smile at my graduation, Rebecca's laughter on a summer night before everything got complicated. I let the anger go. I let myself rest. And in the gentle hush that follows, I whisper to no one, or maybe just to myself. We lose, we learn, we begin again.